Hello, hello, hello. Welcome to another episode of Mindset of Mike. Today we're going to be talking about unveiling meaning and purpose in career and life. I am absolutely thrilled to have you here today, as always. We're going to discuss what is purpose in the short term and in the long term, how to explore and maximize your passions, ways to overcome mindset challenges and negative beliefs, and how to pursue and apply purpose in your life. As always, starting today, this is a topic that I absolutely love because even though it's very different for each and every single one of us, it's something that we all have in common. It was about a few years ago, and I honestly cannot tell you where I was or exactly what year it was, but I can tell you exactly what I envisioned. I had somewhat of a vision, and not like in the psychic way, like in a That's So Raven kind of episode, and by saying that I probably just confused half of my audience and the other half are totally like, yes, I know what you're talking about. But it was more so like a daydream and something that was so clear in my mind. I could see myself going to heaven. My life had ended, and we're not going to get morbid around here. By the way, I'm not afraid of those things, those topics. I think they make me appreciate life so much more. However, it was one of those like, I'm in heaven, right? How I got there doesn't matter, but I'm in heaven and I'm standing right in front of God. He's before me. And right next to him is a woman who looks a lot like me, but isn't. And so we're recapping all that my life was, what I accomplished, what I didn't, how I lived my life, how I supported others, how I didn't, my relationships, travels, business, career, loved ones, family, society, community, everything about my life. We're kind of just recapping all that it was. And then he lets her talk. And she says everything that she did with her life. And it turns out that she accomplished everything I wanted to be, anything I wanted to achieve, anything that I wanted to accomplish or have, but didn't. And it was all because I was afraid, because I let fear dictate my life, because I had self-doubt, because I didn't believe in myself, because I let people get in my head, because I let external factors and circumstances impact my decisions, hold me back, anchor me down. All those things that often tell us that we cannot played a factor, and I didn't reach what I call my plan A. It was then when I realized that for me, I believe in God, as you know. For you, it could be something else, but I believe that there's a plan A for us, there's a plan B, there's a plan C. We're going to make decisions in life, and we're always going to be taken care of. Life is going to do the best that it can for us to be taken care of with those shifts and turns that we take. However, oftentimes those shifts and turns can be less than what we know or what we're destined for, or what we know that we're destined for. And it became a very strong message in my mind, and I became absolutely determined to accomplish my plan A. I am fueled by it. It's something that I wake up every morning and I think, how can I accomplish my plan A? And some days, I'm not going to lie to you, I fail. And other days, I am very successful at it, and it makes me happy to keep on going. So for you, the question would be, what does your plan A look like? How does your purpose play a role? And what can you do about it starting today to make that happen? Now, there is a big misconception when it comes to achieving purpose or living in our purpose. We have this unspoken reality or truth or belief sometimes that to live in purpose means that you're one of the 0.01% earners in the world, and you've created one of these household name companies that everybody's talking about and everybody needs, and it comes down to money. To not having money, or to having money, but also earning money and creating, financial success in your life. That's one side of the spectrum. The other side of the spectrum, I think that many people believe that living in purpose and doing something that's impactful means that you need to be super, super selfless and do things that aren't going to give you any money at all, but are going to give a lot back to humanity and to the environment and to the planet and so on and so forth. And although I believe that, those are purposes, that's a purpose that people have, and they accomplish huge things, and there isn't anything to take away from anybody's journey. 99.9% of us, and that's just me throwing out a number, do not live in either side of the spectrum. We're in the middle, and that's fine. It doesn't make you less than, it doesn't make you better than, it doesn't make you anything different, but just your journey is unique and different. And this is where the lack of purpose comes in, or like the lack of believing that we can live in purpose comes in. What does it look like in the short term and in the long term? What does purpose look like? Well, first of all, in the long term, I'm going to be honest with you, it goes way beyond yourself. And I am the first person to tell you to dream big and to have big goals and to take big action and to just think big and go make that like big thing happen and believe that that thing is for you. However, I am also going to tell you that if all we're focusing on are material things and the houses and the cars and the money and the me, what I want for myself and what I want me, it's not tied to our purpose. It's tied to our goals that we can have in life, and that's absolutely great. But it doesn't mean that it's the bigger thing unless that correlates to something bigger than yourself. And so I'm going to give you a few examples. I love watching David Attenborough, as I've mentioned before, I think, and I like sharing with you a little bit of my personal stories, what I do in my day-to-day. And in my household, if we see David Attenborough anything, we click on it and we watch it. We love learning about nature and just the planet and things like that. And I got curious because we were watching one on the British Isles, and I Googled how many species live in the UK. And the number that came up just from the top of my head, it was 70,000 species. And I thought, well, that's wonderful because it's a very small island, there's a lot going on there. And if you really look at it, every single one of these species plays a role. And some of them are tiny, but they play a role. Think of bees, how important they are in our ecosystem, or flowers, or trees, or anything and everything has a reason for being, and it goes beyond itself. They contribute something to the planet, to the environment, or something. Sometimes it's shade, sometimes it's food, sometimes it's something different. And they're part of all that we see in our everyday. And I remember my mom, it was back in spring, I was completely geeking out on spring in the UK because I had never experienced this. I remember the last time that I lived in a place with 4 seasons, I was in Ohio when I was 6. So it's been a while since I've experienced the multiple seasons, and I was so excited sending them all the pictures of the flowers and the trees and everything. I'm from Texas, so couldn't help myself. And it was Easter. They were out at my uncle's ranch in Mexico, and it's relatively dry, but there's still, flowers and trees and grass here and there. Very beautiful. And she sends me a picture of this very, very, very small flower. And this flower is smaller than your thumbnail. And every single one of the petals is made up of even smaller flowers. It was a tiny little thing, so precious. And it got me thinking, if the universe could create something so beautiful, it was obviously there for a reason. What about us? Why are we created? What purpose do we fulfill? Every flower is different. Every tree is different. Every animal is different. And you are a thinking, living, breathing, thought processing, analytical being. Believe me when I tell you that there is a reason why you are here. And there is a reason why you're listening to this. And there is a reason why you are on the path that you are. So let's explore that a little more moving forward. When it comes to the short term, for me, purpose that's where meaning comes in, with the title of this podcast, meaning and purpose in career and life. It's where the joy and the happiness and the peace and fulfillment really come in. For me, it's the going to bed every single day knowing that you are living the way that you were intended and created to live. And granted, it's so different for us, for you, than the person next to you or the person in another country or with other interests and beliefs. But it's you, and you are 1 in 8 billion, and this was created for you. It doesn't make you better than the person next to you or less than the other person next to you, but so unique and special. And that is one thing that I strive to look at every single day is how can we live in our purpose and give life meaning, even in the most quote unquote mundane days and tasks and things that we do that become so normal, but give us that life and give us that energy and give us the reason to keep going. So for me, sometimes whenever you feel disconnected with your purpose, and if you're listening to this and you're thinking, you're throwing that word around an awful lot, Claudia, and I'm still kind of confused on what my purpose can look like, I just want to encourage you to not always look at the bigger picture, not always feel the stress of, I have to do something for humanity and I have to do something with my life, but more so, what am I doing with my life every single day? And then that is going to lead you to a bigger purpose. And I will explain a little more on how this works throughout the episode in the next few minutes. Let's focus on exploring and maximizing our passions in a very unique and, I want to say, independent way. You have to give yourself a chance to grow. You have to give yourself an opportunity. If we are doing the same things over and over and over, even if that routine is absolutely wonderful, we're going to keep getting the same results. Very seldom will you get an aha moment by doing the same things over and over, kind of like in movies, like, oh my gosh, I get it now. But think about bringing something different into your existence. I like to think of it as I want to give you this image right now, which could relate, maybe not, but just imagine beautiful ocean. And there's all these little fishies in there, and everything is just calm and peaceful, and we just love watching those like meditation background things that we see on YouTube. But then a little shark comes in, and the little fishies, they get a little pep in their step, in their swim, and the energy changes, and they kind of start moving, and they kind of have, they're swimming with purpose now. Not walking with purpose, but swimming with purpose. And they needed that something different, right? That discomfort, doing something that is not normal or seeing something that is not normal to bring that energy in. And the reason why I share this with you, it's not to bring a shark in or to antagonize sharks. Okay, I still want to swim with them and they seem like lovely creatures. I really do believe it. But it's more so to give you the idea of bringing something that is out of the ordinary, something that can sometimes feel uncomfortable, not our go-to, can make a huge difference in your life. So the question would be, what would be that shark in your life that is going to give you a different result? You are an ever-evolving and ever-changing human. But think of it this way. If you're not growing, you're dying. In the nicest sense of the word. You're here to create. You're here to be. You're here to get better and be better. And not just let the years go by and think of like, oh, the good old days, which is one of my biggest pet peeves. Like that phrase, the good old days, it's like, don't even, I like to think of it as the good old days are now. These are the amazing times. And what we're creating is going to be even better, which is why we're still here. And so for you, think about what can you do differently in your life? What can you learn now? How can you serve people differently? How can you treat your body differently in the form of nutrition and activity, physical wellness? How can you get more involved in your career? How can you do things that are more aligned with you? Explore that, which is something that I think is very separated when it comes to career and life. We think that they're very different things. Our personal life is one thing and our professional life is another. And oh my gosh, don't share certain things online because if your boss sees it, it could look very, very badly. And we're supposed to be these very professional beings. And no, you're a human being first. And that's one of the strongest things that I have learned in my past career endeavors, and even now working with professional adults, is you're a person first, and that impacts everything. And it is okay to be a person whenever you are in your place of work. Whether you have a small business, a large business, whether you work for an amazing company, a small company, whatever the case may be, you are yourself first. So it's important to explore what your passions are. And if you don't know what your passions are, get curious about trying new things. Those things that you once thought about trying whenever you were a child or whenever you were a teenager that you never did for whatever reason, or you dropped for whatever reason, maybe there is something there for you to explore. And it's a very beautiful journey that can tie into what you do now. For me, it was speaking. I always loved speaking. Since the time that I was 5, I've been speaking. And I was always the kid that was chosen to do the little monologues at, you know, class plays or presentations or Mother's Day or Father's Day events. And I was always that kid. And, you know, whenever I was in high school, I was always the kid that the teacher would say, "Did you see what she did?" And I'm not saying that I'm better than anybody whatsoever, but it was my passion and I loved it. And I, funny enough, in my career, started stepping into it. And when I was in a position where it wasn't my all in my career, it wasn't the main focal point, I made sure that I still used it in my favor and brought personal development in here because I was so passionate about it. And that's how I ended up feeling like I was connecting my personal and my professional world, my passions, that maximizing my potential and my purpose. And so the question would be, how would that look like for you? And it's a big open-ended question that I can't answer for you right now. And perhaps you can't answer for yourself right now either, but it takes time and it's a journey, and maybe it'll come to you in a moment. Maybe it'll take a little longer, and that's totally okay. But now let's talk about how the mental challenges and negative beliefs play a part, because that is a reality. We talked about this early on in the podcast. I think it was, episode 1, when we talked about dreaming, how we kind of start fading away from what our innate dreams and imagination and goals are. And we focus more on the quote unquote being realistic and just those things that I understand play a part at one point and are important to consider. But in some things, when it comes to your purpose, come on, you got to be anything but realistic, because that is the bigger picture that is sometimes not so obvious and in your face. Research shows that only 25% of Americans know their purpose or have an inkling or curiosity of what it could be. That's a very sad number, because that means that 1 out of 4 are the only ones who have an idea. 75% of us don't. Now, I would imagine it's the same kind of large number throughout the world, even though countries are different and stuff. But at the end of the day, more people don't know what their purpose is than those who do. Here's the thing about purpose and meaning in life. If you don't decide what that is going to be for you, something or someone else will tell you what your purpose is. It is not to, once again, antagonize anything or anyone, because we are responsible of our actions. It's not about what happens in your life. It's about how you respond to it and what you decide to do with it. However, in your career, how many times do you go into work or business waiting for someone else to kind of guide you because they have a higher status, because they earn more money, because in the ranks, theirs looks a little better? And we kind of just fall through the cracks, and we allow ourselves to become complacent and fit the mold. And it kind of bothers us and it kind of hurts. Or maybe we're settled in there, but a little birdie, like there's something in our mind saying, this isn't right, and we ignore it. And that leads to feeling unhappy and feeling, regretful or feeling like there's something missing. There is purpose in your life anywhere you are. You don't have to be an entrepreneur. You can work for a company. You can work for yourself. You cannot have a job. But there is still purpose for you. There is a word just, that we sometimes not use, but we think about it, or we allow ourselves, our subconscious, to adopt it. I am just an employee at a company with a lot of people. I am just an employee at a small company. I am just a small business owner. I am just starting off. I am just so young. I am just so old. That word just is minimizing and diminishing all that you are. It's like you're getting this big mural and you are downsizing it to the size of a stamp that you put on an envelope when it's meant to be huge. Not for everybody to see, but to make a huge impact in your world, in our world, in our world, in our career or our personal life. We tend to become like those who surround us, and not only physically, but also the way that we think and the way that we operate in our lifestyle and other things. And so a lot of times you want to step out of that, but you don't, because it's not normal for what's around you. And that's what we call societal acceptance. And we will dive deep into that in another episode, but it's definitely something that is so real and valid. And I want to ask you, are you holding back because what you really want to do isn't normal within your circle? Whether it's your family circle, your personal circle, or your circle at work, in your business, and your career, it's something that you need to listen to. I remember somebody saying, I come from a background of being a teacher. I used to be a high school Spanish teacher before I embarked on other projects and completely changed my career, started using my master's. But I remember somebody telling me, like laughing in my face and saying, you're never going to quit your job because you've been saying this for 3 years and you never quit your job. And I said the same thing, and I've been here for 10 years and I haven't quit my job. And I remember thinking like, wow, that is zero limitations. And the first time that they said it, I felt kind of disappointed and discouraged. The second time that they said it, I realized that it was them and their limiting beliefs, and I couldn't allow that to affect me and to limit me. And so you kind of just have to put this filter on and say, I appreciate what you're saying, but what you're saying doesn't apply to me. And you don't even have to verbalize it, but at least think it to yourself and not allow yourself to not be in your purpose. If I had stayed where I was, even though I was a phenomenal teacher and I loved it and I loved working with kids and it was a great experience for me, I wouldn't be doing what I do now and the impact that I have now. And now I am living in my purpose. So it's something that you sometimes have to acknowledge, that just because I am here, it doesn't mean that I am here to stay. It doesn't mean that they are in the wrong or that I'm in the wrong. It just means that we have different pathways, and that is totally valid for you. And same thing happens in your personal life. Make sure that there is meaning, like we said, to what you do, but also that be okay with doing things differently than your family members. Be okay with doing something that nobody in your family ever fathomed of doing. And it doesn't make you better again. It just makes you different and unique and your own. So something to consider. When it comes to pursuing this in your life, I did this before I quit my job. I started bringing personal development into my workspace, and not only into my workspace for me, but in my workspace for others. I was working with over 250 teenagers the year that I left, and I made sure that they got all the coaching that I now give people, but obviously for free because they were my students, and it was a wonderful experience that they absolutely loved. And I felt so good about it and so aligned. And then I started working with curriculum development with other companies and all the things and speaking, and it really started shaping up. But it started where I was. At the beginning, I was frustrated because I knew that I wasn't going to be in my end place, and I felt kind of confused, and how do I do this, and how do I merge my passion and what I'm doing right now? But then once it clicked, it felt really, really good. And then funny enough, whenever I quit, a few months later, I read Think Like a Monk by Jay Shetty, big fan. And he talks about doing what you're passionate about within where you are. And I was like, yes, I did that. And I teach that. So I am not in the bad headspace when it comes to that. So that is my 2 cents and the way that I validate what I am telling you right now. So think about always being in alignment. Always being in alignment. Think about everything needs to be an absolute yes or an absolute no. And sometimes those absolute yeses would normally want to be an absolute no for you, but you have to step out of your comfort zone to get to a different place. And also the absolute no, sometimes you would be saying absolutely yes, but then again, we have to make those changes. So think about what is serving you in your life, what feels aligned for you, and what feels right for you where you are, not only now, but where you want to go. And a lot of times we waste so much time doing things that we want to do for other people because we don't want to say no, or because, yeah, maybe it would be a good fit, but is it really aligned with the bigger purpose? Ask yourself that, yes or no. From the activities that you do on the daily, what you watch, what you listen to, how you spend your time, who's in your circle, what you're doing at work, there is something within you that makes you so special. There is something within you that is so unique, that makes you different and your own, and that I cannot wait to hear about or learn about or see, that impacts other people. So do not be afraid of unleashing, of tapping into your passion, of tapping into that thing that just feels so right, because believe me, it is there for a reason. Those things that are little glimpses in your mind, those things that you think about, those things that put that pep in your step, that create that burning desire, that bring this smile from ear to ear on your face, follow that, listen to that, do not ignore that, and continue being yourself. Because we need more of honesty and authenticity and people being their honest, real selves. To continue supporting you in your journey, we have left more resources down below. Make sure you sign up to our Mindset Minutes newsletter. It is delivered to you weekly. It's a very quick 30 to 1 minute read. I give you great coaching, mindset leadership, resources, inspiration, all the things, which ties in perfectly with our podcast. Make sure that you follow and share this episode to support somebody that you love and care about, and also to help us spread this message. I believe in you. Don't forget to keep being the optimal leader in your life. My name is Claudia Ramirez, and we'll see you in the next one. Bye-bye.